Hey everybody, this is Leon the Star, and in this video I'm going to show you how to gate sounds from the sampler in a very efficient way. Alright, so what we have here is Sunvox. Sunvox is a free application to make audio, effects and instruments, and you can save it all into one file, so it's completely portable. Your songs won't break because all the effects, etc. are described in the file. So that's really cool. So let's hit up this sampler here. I use the sampler a lot, and not only to load samples, but I also usually sample instruments into the sampler. So I just let's set this to mono. I said record. Okay, I just pressed the Q keyboard button to sort of trigger this kick, and if I press edit now, then you will see that it basically sampled this kick. So let's crop this. Alright, so we have a kick here. Okay, so we have this, and what is very cool is that you don't have to go into the graph here and do all kinds of effects here. No, that's not needed, because in a certain version of Sunvox, I don't remember which one, the built-in effects were introduced, and you can basically set up 4 effects here at the envelopes tab, and you can basically draw their motion in this envelope. So let's say if I want to gate it, then obviously you have the volume envelope, which you can turn on. That's a gate. But if I want to gate it in a filter way or in a reverb way, I can just set up a module here, let's say reverb. And what I could do is set this controller, basically the envelope controller, to wet, and then only thing I have to do is turn it on. Boom. So now we have our zoom out a bit with the mouse wheel. Here we have our gate envelope. So this is, I think, really cool. So every time you trigger the sound, let's turn it on actually. And let's remove this one. There you have it. You can hear the gate already. If I remove it. Okay, this is a very minimal kick, but if I turn on this gate, we will have this 80s gate effect. Could be a bit longer though. And there is also something to remember. You have to, this envelope interpolation is always set to linear. This is what you want. If you don't do this, you get all kinds of clicks. The only reason to have it off is if you really want to have a certain, let's say, square wavy like instant motions, but yeah, just leave it on linear. That will be totally fine. The sample interpolation, just to let you know what it does, is usually set to spline, because if you don't do this, then if you play the sample at high frequencies or low frequencies, then you would hear some really weird ringing artifacts, and that's what this sample interpolation does. The only reason to turn it off is when you play a sample exactly in the frequency sample rate which it's supposed to play. Let's say your sample is 44100 Hertz, then that should be the I guess it's a C5 or something. Actually, it's not that important, but yeah, these effects are really cool. I've also used this to set up a filter. Let's set up this filter here. For example, I have used this to control the frequency. Let's set this to high pass. The frequency using an envelope. And by doing so, what I could do here is I had some bass notes which were so great, but when they would like play together with the kick, they would be you know, it would be distorting the whole mix. So what I did there is instead of setting up sidechain compression, I got away with simply setting up this envelope, which would basically high pass the bass note only in the beginning. It would high pass it at, let's say, 200 hertz, and then a couple of milliseconds later, you know, when the kick already did its thing, then it would basically play the low bass frequencies, all just by, you know, drawing this simple envelope. So yeah, if you want to have really fine-grained control over certain motions of certain effects, then yeah, this is really good stuff. You can also sample the result into another sampler. Yeah, I just want to let you know that these envelopes are a really great Swiss Army knife, and it saves you a lot of work in this machine view otherwise. Like otherwise you have to add a reverb here, and you have to connect it, you have to set up all these things, then you have to do other weird stuff to get this sort of motion of certain parameters, and there's a lot of issues with that as well. You have to set up all kinds of, like, let's say if you use this sound to control, you can control, let's say, the wet with the amplitude of the sampler, but here this is sensitive stuff. Now you have to tweak the sample rate so that it doesn't click and all these things. So long story short, these envelopes here are great tools for sound design. All right, I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next video. Cheers!